My parents have been incredibly supportive, but it has taken some time. I obviously told my mom of the initial premonition that I had, and she was the first person to know. But it took 6 years for me to tell my dad.
At just 29, Tyler Henry has endured more tragedy than most people face in a lifetime. Long before becoming the star of Hollywood medium with Tyler Henry, his life was shaped by illness, loss, and a family secret dark enough to belong in a true crime story. Behind the fame, the cost of his gift has been far more painful than anyone expected. So what has Tyler really gone through to get here? And why has so much of his story remained hidden from the public? Join us as we uncover why the tragedy of Hollywood medium's Tyler Henry is beyond heartbreaking. The town that was never going to accept him. The story of Tyler Henry starts in Hanford, California, a small rural city near Fresno in the Central Valley. The kind of place where everybody knows everybody, and where being different in any visible way tends to have consequences that follow them through the whole length of your childhood. Tyler was born there on January 13, 1996, 3 months premature, which is itself a significant medical fact, at the foundation of everything that followed his entry into the world. He grew up in what he has described as a conservative Christian community, where the worldview was narrow, the expectations were clear, and the space for anything outside those expectations was essentially non-existent. He was, in almost every way that mattered in that environment, outside the expectations. He was gay in a town that had other gay kids, but no other mediums, which created a specific kind of isolation that he has described as cutting in a different direction than the isolation most people associate with growing up gay in a conservative community. The religious pushback against his identity as a clairvoyant was, by his own account, more intense than the reaction to his sexuality. People were upset by what he could do from a religious perspective in ways that followed him throughout his childhood and early adolescence. He was a target for ridicule and bullying, and the reason he was targeted had as much to do with the experiences he was having and talking about as it did with who he was attracted to. Tyler has described having 2 coming-out experiences, first as a medium and then as gay, and has been open about the fact that revealing his abilities was actually the harder of the 2 disclosures in the context of where he grew up. The first experience he had that he recognized as something beyond ordinary intuition happened when he was 10 years old. He had woken up one night with what he described as a knowingness about his grandmother's death that he could not explain and could not shake. He tried to tell his mother about it. While he was still talking, the phone rang. It was his father, calling to say he had watched Tyler's grandmother die in front of him. The confirmation arrived mid-sentence. That experience took years to process. Tyler spent the period from age 10 to 13 gradually understanding what was happening to him and beginning to recognize it as something real rather than coincidental. By 16, he was giving informal readings to people in his community, enough so that word had spread and clients were seeking him out. He waited 6 years after the grandmother's experience before telling his father about his abilities, a long period of carrying something significant without being able to share it with both parents simultaneously. The coming out process as gay was described by Tyler in a 2024 interview as not one coming out, but a series of them, a process of repeatedly asserting his identity to people who kept sending it back into the closet, who suggested he might be going through a phase, who needed him to prove something that he felt required no proof. His parents eventually came to full acceptance of both dimensions of his identity, and he has credited his father publicly as someone whose love was strong enough to outlast the adjustment period. But the adjustment period was real, and it happened in a small town that was watching all of it. If childhood was this complicated, layered with isolation and identity, and the weight of experiences that nobody around him could share. What happened the moment he turned 18 and thought the hardest part might be over? The emergency that changed everything at 18. By 18, Tyler Henry had already decided what his future looked like. He was going to become a hospice nurse. He had thought about this seriously, understood that he wanted to spend his life helping people in their most difficult moments, and had enrolled in college with that goal in mind. What happened instead was a medical crisis that forced a complete revision of every plan he had made. Tyler began experiencing ongoing headaches that escalated until he told his mother he thought his brain was swelling. He was right. He was hospitalized with hydrocephalus, a dangerous condition in which cerebrospinal fluid cannot circulate properly and builds up pressure inside the skull, caused by an arachnoid cyst that had developed on his brain. An arachnoid cyst is a benign fluid-filled sac that forms on the arachnoid membrane, one of the protective layers surrounding the brain. Benign does not mean harmless. When a cyst in that location grows large enough to interfere with the normal flow of cerebrospinal fluid, the consequences can be rapidly life-threatening. Tyler underwent emergency brain surgery at 18 to remove the cyst. The procedure was done endoscopically. He recovered. But the crisis left him with lasting consequences that have never been discussed as prominently as the surgery itself. He stopped driving permanently after experiencing a mini-stroke associated with the episode. His mother, Teresa, has essentially been his chauffeur ever since, accompanying him to readings and serving as the logistical backbone of his daily professional life. For someone building a career as a traveling medium, the inability to drive independently was a significant constraint that has structured every aspect of how he works and moves through the world. He reflected on that experience in a 2023 Instagram post, writing that it taught him early on about the importance of timing and trust, that without the inevitable brain surgery, he did not think he would have had such a first-hand awareness of the fragility of life, and that it was an intimate reminder for him of the fine line between this realm and the next. For a medium whose entire professional identity is built around the territory between the living and the dead, having been surgically close to that line himself at 18 is not an abstract detail. It is the foundation of everything that followed. The surgery also derailed the hospice nursing plan entirely. Recovery and rehabilitation took time. The television opportunity emerged during that recovery, and the trajectory of his life shifted into something he had not predicted for himself. He has said he was told by another psychic, before he knew the entertainment career was coming, that his path was going to go somewhere unexpected. That surgery at 18 was supposed to be the one. It was supposed to be the full stop on that particular chapter of his medical history. He went a decade without returning. And then it came back. So if the career that emerged from the wreckage of his 18-year-old health crisis was everything he built his adult identity around, what was happening in that career that he was not allowed to talk about publicly for years? The dark family secret and the true crime story he never expected to tell. Tyler Henry's Netflix series, Life After Death, which premiered in March 2022, was presented as a show about a medium offering readings to everyday people on his enormous waiting list. That framing is accurate and incomplete simultaneously. The most significant story in the show was not the celebrity connections or the emotional readings with strangers. It was what happened when Tyler's mother took a DNA test in 2019 and discovered that the woman who had raised her was not her biological mother. Teresa Kulawin, whom Tyler has always described as his best friend, grew up believing her mother was a woman named Stella Guidry Nestle. Stella was, by any available account, a terrifying person. When Teresa was 12 years old, Stella was sentenced to 2 concurrent life terms in prison for torturing and killing 2 people, the owner of the Fowler Motel and her boyfriend. She made her own biological son an accessory to the murders. The son later explained that he obeyed because the Bible told him to honor his parents. Stella reportedly still lives in California. When Teresa's DNA results came back showing no biological relationship to Stella, the revelation was described by Teresa herself as bittersweet. She told Today that her first reaction was relief, because it meant she did not share blood with a convicted murderer. But the relief was immediately complicated by what the test also confirmed. The siblings she had grown up loving, the family structure that had shaped her childhood, was, biologically, not hers. And the question of how she had ended up in Stella's hands, without legal documentation supporting any legitimate transfer, pointed toward the conclusion that she had been taken from her biological family rather than given to Stella through any proper channel. Tyler and his mother traced Teresa's biological mother, Mary Baroni, who had sadly already passed away by the time the show was filming. They found Teresa's half-siblings still living in New Orleans, who described how Mary had suffered a breakdown after giving Teresa up, and how she had been deeply ashamed of something that the DNA investigation was slowly illuminating. Teresa met her biological family in Louisiana during the filming of the series. The reunion was emotional and grief-laden simultaneously, a mixture of immediate love and deep mourning for the life that had been taken from her. Tyler has described the experience of trying to help his mother investigate her own family through his abilities as uniquely disabling. He told an interviewer during production that he held a necklace that belonged to his biological maternal grandmother and felt nothing. For the first time, he said, it felt like he was not a medium, he was just a human being. The emotional proximity to the situation, the personal stake in the outcome, blocked whatever it is he normally accesses in professional settings. The family mystery was ultimately only partially resolved. Teresa's biological father, traced by an investigative genealogist hired for the show, turned out to be a man named Joe Cowart, who had red hair and had served in the military through 2 wars. He was also deceased by the time the investigation caught up with him. What the show documented was Teresa arriving in her mid-50s at the truth about a kidnapping she had never known was a kidnapping, discovering biological family she had never known existed, and processing all of it alongside a son who spends his professional life helping other people do exactly that, but who, in the specific context of his own family, was rendered just as helpless as anyone else. If the family mystery was the most personally devastating story in his public life, what was the body doing in the background of all of it? And when did the medical problems come back? 3 brain surgeries and the memory of a goldfish. The decade following the first surgery at 18 was, medically speaking, relatively stable. The cyst resealed and life moved forward. The career grew in ways that even the most generous prediction from a professional psychic might not have anticipated. By December 2023, Tyler Henry had over 600,000 people on his reading waitlist. He was touring nationally with his An Evening of Hope and Healing live show. He was shooting a new Netflix series. He was at the peak of his career. And then in May 2025, he underwent a second brain surgery. This time, the diagnosis was a colloid tumor near the center of his brain, a different classification from the arachnoid cyst that had been removed at 18. A colloid cyst is a slow-growing mass that can cause blockage of the cerebrospinal fluid flow, leading to hydrocephalus, the same dangerous pressure buildup that had put him in surgery the first time. The symptoms it produces can include headaches, visual changes, memory difficulties, and, in serious cases, loss of consciousness or coma. Tyler underwent the surgery just a few days after he got married to his long-term partner, Clint Godwin, at the Beverly Hills courthouse. Luckily, the surgery went well. He described the surgery on Instagram as successful, made a characteristic joke about them having removed the tumor rather than the brain, and told his audience he would be on bed rest for a month. The recovery began, then the symptoms came back within months. In November 2025, Clint posted on Instagram to inform the public that Tyler had undergone a third brain operation, his second in 6 months, to address a cyst and swelling that had returned after the May procedure. Clint confirmed the third surgery had been successful and that Tyler was recovering well and expected to return home within days. What Tyler then shared with his own audience in December 2025 was a detail that was more disarming than anything the medical bulletins had included. He described his short-term memory as being so impaired in the weeks following the surgery that he felt like a goldfish, able to hold only about 10 minutes of short-term memory at a time. He was someone who makes his living through what he describes as impressions from the other side, a person whose entire professional identity is constructed around the precision and specificity of what he receives and relays. Now he was telling his audience that for 2 weeks, he could barely hold on to information for 10 minutes. He described writing down and drawing what he had experienced out of body during the surgery, and said he was excited to share it when the time was right. He framed the memory loss as improving, which was true. He remained optimistic throughout the public documentation of a situation that most people would find genuinely terrifying. He has also been open about the toll his work itself takes on him, separately from the medical situation. He told an interviewer in 2022 that he sometimes can't imagine living to 70 because he already feels old on the inside, and that readings make him feel older. He described the work as leaving him drained in ways that are not entirely physical. For someone who describes his ability as something he cannot fully turn off, only turn up or tune down, the cumulative weight of what he carries professionally alongside everything he has carried personally since age 10 is not difficult to understand. If the brain surgeries represent the most immediate physical crisis in a life that has never had a period of genuine medical simplicity, what does the full picture of everything Tyler Henry has been through by 29 actually mean for how he is understood? What 29 has already cost him? Tyler Henry is 29 years old. The things that have happened to him in those 29 years are not evenly distributed across a timeline that allows for stretches of ordinary life between the difficult parts. The difficult parts have been continuous, overlapping, and in several cases genuinely life-threatening. The skeptics who have followed his career have made arguments that are well documented and that deserve acknowledgement in any honest account of his life. Critics, including scientific skepticism researchers, have argued that what Tyler does is a combination of cold reading, the technique of making high-probability guesses, and refining them based on the subject's reactions, and hot reading, using information obtained before a session begins. The Skeptical Inquirer raised specific concerns about his Netflix productions. Researchers have pointed to particular sessions with identifiable celebrities where the techniques appear to be in evidence. None of this has been resolved definitively in either direction, and Tyler's response to skepticism has consistently been to acknowledge its legitimacy while describing his own certainty about the reality of his experience. What is not a matter of dispute is that the people who come to him are primarily people in grief. The emotional experience of loss is among the most isolating and painful things a human being can go through, and the 600,000 people on his wait list are there because they want something that medicine and conventional support cannot give them in the specific form they are seeking. Whether or not Tyler's ability is what he says it is, the emotional function he serves in those sessions is real and documented by the people who participate in them. What Tyler Henry has built, Across a childhood that tried to diminish him, and a body that has periodically tried to stop him, and a public culture that has spent a decade debating whether he is real or fraudulent, is a genuinely unusual thing. Not a smooth career or an uninterrupted ascent. Something more complicated and more human than that. A life spent standing at the line between two places, professionally, and being pulled back from it physically, repeatedly, at considerable cost. He told an interviewer that being gay and being a medium both made him feel isolated at different points in his life, but that they both also gave him resilience and a sense of pride in who he is as an individual. That is a generous reading of a childhood and young adulthood that has been genuinely hard. But it is also coming from someone who has been through what Tyler Henry has been through by 29, possibly just the truth. Does knowing the full story of what Tyler Henry has been through change how you see his work, regardless of where you stand on what he claims to do? And what do you think the next chapter of his life looks like after everything the past year has brought? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.